Okay, there we go. So here we are on Google Classroom. I'm just going to go to Morehouse ELA. Go up to classwork as always. And here we are for Wednesday. Lyric, do you have a specific question?
Kind of, yeah. But, like, if we do our work, do we got to join the call, like, every day of the week?
Oh, no. I mean, I would like you to either join like 1 or 2 days a week. You're really good about completing your work, but I do still want to just check in with you. Okay, Lyric? Okay, so Tuesday and Thursday, I mean, we did a Mad Lib yesterday, and then Thursday, I think, or tomorrow, we're just going to do the same thing. Just review the work from today and then hang out, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, so Claudette Colvin, Twice Towards Justice. This is a 22-minute video, so please buckle in. We are on chapter 5. I'm also going to pull up the questions. Can anybody just give me a recap of what happened in Claudette Colvin last time? Please raise your hand. Chase knows. Jordan knows. I guess Za's still upset about her losing the game, so I'm going to call on Chase.
We had learned that Claudette Colvin was on a bus, and she the bus driver asked her to give up her seat, and she did not give up her seat. So they had took her to the jail, and when they took her to the jail, her mom and a pastor came, and they came to get her.
Yep.
And the pastor had came to bail her out. So after that, they was everybody in the neighborhood, they was saying like how she did a good job and how is this gonna help out and stuff or something.
Yeah.
About.
Okay. Yeah, I think that you basically hit the nail on the head. That was absolutely pretty much 100% accurate. Jordan, would you like to add anything?
Yes, we was thinking about if she would start the revolution or not.
Oh, yeah, that is the question. Is she going to start the revolution or not? Some of us said yes, some of us said no. Today we're actually going to see what the outcome was for her doing this, okay? Did she start that revolution or did she not? Hey, everybody, Daria's here. Okay, Daria, we are just starting on chapter 5, okay? Can you guys see this little box up here, or do you just see my complete screen? Jordan?
Your complete screen.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So here we go.
Day after 5. There's the girl who got arrested. The world is a severe schoolmaster. Phyllis Wheatley, the first published African-American poet, 1753 to 1784. The news that a schoolgirl had been arrested for refusing to surrender her bus seat to a white passenger flashed through Montgomery's Black community and traveled far beyond. One man from Sacramento, California, wrote to Claudette, "The wonderful thing which you have just done makes me feel like a craven coward. How encouraging it would be if more adults had your courage, self-respect, and integrity."
So it says to stop there at question 1. If they had her courage, self-respect, and integrity, it said. So what conflict is described in pages 31 and 32? Oh, this is Claudette Colvin Chapter 4 questions. What is going on here? Oh no, I gave you guys the wrong questions. I'm gonna have to change this, okay, guys? All right. Sorry. You guys have to refresh all of your pages after I do this. Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry about this. I'm gonna unmute everybody so that we can just hang out while I do this.
Okay. Mr. Hayes, are we on chapter 5?
We are on chapter 5. I completely goofed up.
I have the questions. You're just on Morehouse.
They're on Morehouse?
No, they're on Howard.
You have the chapter 5 questions?
Uh-huh.
Azal, what are you eating?
Let me see what's going on here.
You're on mute, honey.
Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. I totally goofed up. You guys have the questions.
Are you eating crab legs?
Are you eating crab legs?
That look like bacon.
So,
Eating yeah, bacon.
It's bacon.
Hey, everybody, Lamont's here. Okay, I'm muting you all again.
Y'all slow. She said.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was on the wrong thing. So Claudette Colvin Chapter 5. So how do people seem to react to Claudette after she refused to give up her seat on the bus? Please raise your hand if you would like to answer. How did they react? A, people thought she was stupid for doing such a cowardly thing. Would it be B, people thought that she should have been arrested because of what she did was illegal? C, people felt scared for her safety and well-being following her arrest? Or D, people felt encouraged by her bravery and wanted more adults to be like her? Can anybody raise their hand and tell me which one it was? I need somebody other than Chase to answer. All you guys are really smart. Chase, Zon, Jordan, Dariah, Tyla. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I should see about more hands raised, though, because everyone's smart and they should be paying attention. I'm going to call on Tyla because I haven't heard her voice yet today. Tyla, which one would it be?
D.
D, yes, ma'am. They felt encouraged by her bravery and wanted more adults to be like her. Thank you so much, Tyla, for sharing out. And once again, it's through that line right there. It's in this letter that they sent her. How encouraging it would be if more adults had your courage, self-respect, and integrity.
In Montgomery, students stopped one another at bus corners and by their lockers saying things like, "Have you ever heard of Claudette Colvin? Well, do you know anyone who knows her? Where does she go to school?" Joanne Robinson, a professor of English at Alabama State College at the time, later wrote, "Within a few hours, every Negro youngster on the streets discussed Colvin's arrest. Telephones rang. Clubs called special meetings and discussed the event with some degree of alarm. Mothers expressed concern about permitting their children on the buses." Joanne Robinson had a personal reason to admire anyone who took on the bus system. In 1949, just after she had moved to Montgomery, Robinson had boarded a bus for the airport. It was Christmas break, and she was flying off to Cleveland to visit relatives. After dropping a dime in the fare box, she absent-mindedly sat down in one of the 10 front seats reserved for whites. Still new to town, she hadn't thought to walk to the back. Besides, there were only 2 other passengers on the entire bus. Lost in holiday thoughts, she was startled by the realization that someone's face was inches from hers. It was the bus driver shouting, "Get up from there! Get up from there!" His hand was drawn back as if to strike her. She snatched up her packages and stumbled out the front door, nearly sprawling in the mud as the bus pulled away. "I felt like a dog," she later wrote. He had picked the wrong person to bully. Smart, energetic, and extremely well-connected, Joanne Robinson was an active member of the Women's Political Council, a large and influential civic group of professional Black women in Montgomery. Some WPC members were Alabama State College professors. Others, including Claudette's teacher, Geraldine Nesbitt, were ASC graduates who had become teachers. Shortly after Robinson took over as president of the WPC in 1950, she led a successful campaign to make white merchants include the titles Mr., Mrs., and Miss on bills and announcements sent to Black customers. It was an important measure of respect. Though Robinson owned her own car and rarely rode the city bus, the memory of the driver's bullying behavior and how humiliated she had felt wouldn't go away. She started interviewing Black residents who had been mistreated on the city buses and writing down their stories. She soon possessed a thick file of nightmare accounts. Robinson longed to do something about the buses, but she didn't know quite what. In March 1954, she organized a face-to-face meeting of Black leaders, city officials, and bus company representatives to complain about the way Blacks were treated on the buses and to propose reforms. The meeting was pleasant enough, but unproductive. She kept at it. 2 months later, she wrote a letter to Montgomery's mayor, W.A. Tacky Gale, on behalf of the Women's Political Council. Robinson pressed for 3 changes to the bus rules. 1, a new seating plan that would let Blacks sit from back to front and whites from front to back until the bus filled up, as was the practice in several other Southern cities. 2, an end to making Blacks pay their fares at the front of the bus, but then get off and re-enter through the rear door to find a seat at the back. 3, a requirement that drivers stop at every corner in Black neighborhoods just as they did in white neighborhoods. Robinson's diplomatic letter contained one fragment of steel. In the third to last paragraph, she wrote that if things did not get better, there has been talk from 25 or more local organizations of planning a citywide boycott of buses.
All right. Dariah, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question, kiddo?
I was trying to answer the question.
Oh, for question 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me read it to everybody, then you can answer. Okay, Dariah? Thanks for being on top of everything. So read this and then answer the question. In the third to last paragraph, she wrote that if things did not get better, there was talk of there has been talk from 25 or more local organizations of planning a citywide boycott of buses. What did Robinson say would happen if there was not changes for the buses?
She said, wait, is it in what you just read?
Yes, it is.
Okay, she said, it's like in the third paragraph, if things do not get better, there has been talk from 25 or more local organizations of planning a citywide boycott of buses.
Yep. So put that in your own words.
So she basically said if they don't stop if they don't stop doing the things they do for white people, then everybody all together, they would just start riding the bus.
Say that last part one more time. What are they going to do about the bus?
They're going to stop riding it all together.
Who's going to stop riding?
Blacks.
All right. I'm going to put this in.
Miss Hudson, you put it in the chat like you did yesterday.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I was going to do. What's funny is that you're asking me to do that even though you answered the question perfectly. Funny, right? Can anybody tell me the 3 things that they wanted from the bus boycotts? Was it 3? Yeah, it was 3 things exactly. What were 3 things that they wanted to change in the bus, otherwise they were going to boycott? Someone who isn't Dariah. Chase Hardyway, go ahead. What's one of them?
They said that if they don't stop, like they need to go to like every Black corner like they do for the whites. They need to have the Black sit in the front and the white sit in the back. And they also said that they need to something about like when they leave. No, they need to pay in the front or something, and then and then when they leave, go to the entrance door or something like that.
Yeah. So you got one of them wrong, but the other 2 basically right. The last one that you said was, and you were just a little bit confused on it, is that whenever they pay at the front, they can just walk to the back. In Birmingham, what happened, in Montgomery, I have Birmingham on the brain. In Montgomery, what happens is black bus riders would have to pay the fare and then get off the bus and then re-enter through the second door if there was any white person in there. A white person couldn't even, or a black person couldn't even pass a white person on the bus going to the back of the bus.
What? That's sad.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous, right?
Yes.
So they're going to stop riding the bus completely if they don't get those three things. The one thing that you missed is that it wasn't black people in the front and white people in the back. It was the whites fill up in the front, the blacks fill up in the back, and they were okay with that. But basically, it's first come, first serve, meaning that if you get there first, you get the spots. So if the bus loads up with black people in the back, that's absolutely fine. They can take away all the white seats if they want. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, Lamont, you had your hand raised. Do you still need anything answered?
Nope.
Okay, you're all good?
Yep.
Thank you, sir. All right, back to the reading. We are on question 3 now.
The idea of a bus boycott had been gaining momentum throughout the Black community for months. Its power was obvious. 3/4 of Montgomery's bus passengers were Black. If everyone quit riding, they could starve the City Lines bus company into reason. Still, the letter stopped short of calling for an end to segregated seating. As Robinson later wrote, in Montgomery in 1955, no one was brazen enough to announce publicly that Black people might boycott city buses for the specific purpose of integrating those buses. Just to say that minorities wanted better seating arrangements was bad enough. Robinson's letter led only to more polite meetings. The whites offered coffee, nodded, and smiled, but refused to budge an inch when it came to Jim Crow. Still, Claudette Colvin's arrest had stripped the veneer of politeness from the talks. She had been wrenched from her seat and dragged off a bus by police in front of shocked witnesses. People were angry.
All right. Question 3 asks, please raise your hand if you want to answer. Zah already has her hand raised. I don't know if it's a question or if she wants to answer, but here we go. Question 3. How did Claudette's arrest impact the possibility of a bus boycott? Dariah also wants to answer, but we'll see with Zah first. A says, once again, the question is asking, how did Claudette's arrest impact the possibility of a bus boycott? A, people felt bad for her and they wanted Claudette to be able to sit wherever she wanted. Would it be B, the Black community was angry and became more serious about boycotting the buses? C, the Black community was pleased with the changes that were made to the buses? Or D, Claudette was too afraid to ride the bus ever again? Zah, which one would it be?
B, I think.
B. The Black community was angry. I want to just talk for a moment about something called nonviolent protest. Now, the idea that Martin Luther King and a lot of his other leaders and followers were trying to really enforce was that it's this Christian mentality, is that you never give violence. You never say anything hateful to the other side. So peaceful demonstrations that brought awareness to the issue, and it showed how much hate was on the other side. So when Claudette was dragged off that bus, she was doing a form of nonviolent protest because she wasn't angry at all. Well, she was angry, but she held it to herself, and all she said was, "It's my constitutional right." That angered the Black community even more because she was mistreated. She was doing nothing wrong. She was only being peaceful. It's the same ideals that Christ was teaching as well. Okay? And that's what Martin Luther King said would bring the most change. Do we have any questions on that?
No.
No. Sorry, Zai, I didn't mean to unmute you. All right, back to the reading. Let's keep question 4 in mind. Why was Rosa Parks so surprised upon meeting Claudette? So we finally get to see how Rosa Parks and Claudette met. Boom.
Sidebar, bus boycotts. The idea of boycotting or staying off public vehicles until reforms were made was nothing new. but it had never succeeded for long on a large scale. Between 1900 and 1906, Montgomery was one of 25 southern cities to protest segregated streetcars through boycotts. More recently, in June 1953, the Black community of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, had boycotted the city's buses for several days to protest segregated seating. Though they weren't able to evict Jim Crow, the Baton Rouge protesters developed a free ride transportation system and left a detailed blueprint for other bus protesters to follow. Claudette's arrest made her the center of attention wherever she went. On the following Sunday, Reverend Johnson led the congregation in prayer for the girl among them who had been arrested for bravely standing up to the bus driver and the police and challenging the whole ugly system. The next day, classmates swarmed around her when she pulled up to Booker T. Washington High School in her cousin's car. They followed her into homeroom and asked to hear her story. Students pointed at her in the halls, whispering, "There's the girl who got arrested." Opinion at Booker T. Washington was sharply divided between those who admired Claudette's courage and those who thought she got what she deserved for making things harder for everyone. Some said it was about time someone stood up. Others told her that if she didn't like the way things were in the South, she should go up north. Still others couldn't make up their minds. No one they knew had ever done anything like this before. "A few of the teachers, like Miss Nesbitt, embraced me," Claudette recalls. "They kept saying, 'You were so brave.' But other teachers seemed uncomfortable. Some parents seemed uncomfortable too. I think they knew they should have done what I did long before. They were embarrassed that it took a teenager to do it." Facing serious criminal charges, and with her court hearing only 2 weeks away, Claudette feared she might be sent to a reform school as a juvenile delinquent. She had a lot to lose. She was a good student with dreams of college and a career. She was not about to plead guilty to anything, but she didn't know what to do or whom to turn to. Somehow, she had to find a lawyer and figure out how to pay for one. She had no time to lose. Everybody got busy. We started working family connections, trying to find someone to help me. My great-aunt's husband, C.J. McNear, told my parents to get in touch with Mr. E.D. Nixon. C.J. thought my case might be a good civil rights case. Mr. Nixon called the shots in the Black community of Montgomery. He knew everybody, so Mom called him, and he agreed to help us. Sidebar: E.D. Nixon. When Black people had serious problems in Montgomery, they went to E.D. Nixon. Employed as a railroad sleeping car porter, Nixon worked tirelessly throughout his life to advance the rights of Black people. A tall, rugged man with a commanding voice and an earthy sense of humor, Nixon seemed to know everyone: jailers, white policemen, judges, newspaper reporters, lawyers, and government officials. An early president of the Montgomery chapter of the NAACP, Nixon was often able to fix common people's problems through plain talk and informal dealings before they hardened into legal cases. Nixon moved swiftly on 2 fronts. He called Fred Gray, one of Montgomery's 2 Black lawyers, and convinced him to represent Claudette in court. Then he organized a committee of Black leaders to meet downtown with the police commissioner. Among those selected was the new pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, 26-year-old Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. The attempt to obtain justice for Claudette Colvin marked Dr. King's political debut. A conference of Black leaders, the bus company's manager, and the police commissioner seemed to break the tension. Both men were quite pleasant and expressed deep concern over what had happened to Claudette, Dr. King later wrote. The bus company conceded that, according to the driver, Claudette had been sitting behind the 10 white seats in front, and there had been no seats available when the driver ordered her to move. That seemed to be an admission that she hadn't broken the law. The police commissioner agreed the seating rules were confusing and promised that the city's attorney would soon clarify them in writing. The one thing they didn't do was drop the charges against Claudette. The trial would go on. Still, Dr. King walked out of the meeting feeling hopeful and Joanne Robinson also felt her spirits lifting as she stepped outside. We were given to understand that Claudette would be given every chance to clear her name, she later wrote. It was not to be a trial to determine guilt or innocence, but an effort to find out the truth. And if the girl were found innocent, her record would be clear. Those present left the conference feeling that everything would work out fairly for everyone. In the days before Claudette's trial, E.D. Nixon also called Rosa Parks, a soft-spoken 42-year-old professional seamstress who had for many years been secretary of the Montgomery NAACP. Mrs. Parks was also the head of the NAACP's youth group in Montgomery. Nixon and Mrs. Parks had long tried to get more young blacks involved in the struggle for civil rights, but the Sunday afternoon NAACP youth meetings were for the most part poorly attended. However, both saw promise in the dramatic arrest, jailing, and trial of a 15-year-old bus protester. It might spark interest if the girl was willing to tell her story. Nixon urged Mrs. Parks to get Claudette Colvin involved with the NAACP. The first time I ever met Rosa Parks was one Sunday afternoon when she walked into a church before an NAACP youth meeting. There were only a few students around. This small, fair-skinned woman with long, straight hair came up to me and looked me up and down. She said, "You're Claudette Colvin." Oh my God, I was looking for some big old burly overgrown teenager who sassed white people out. But no, they pulled a little girl off the bus. I said, they pulled me off because I refused to walk off.
All right, stopping there and answering this question. Hey, Rihanna Smith is in. Okay, question 4S. Why was Rosa Parks so surprised about meeting Claudette? Who can answer that question for me? It was just in that last paragraph. Lyric. Go ahead, kiddo.
She was surprised because Claudette was like not how she pictured her to be, and because she was young.
Not just young, but how was she?
She was. Wait.
He says, "You're Claudette Colvin. Oh my God, I was looking for some big old burly overgrown teenager who sassed white people out. But no, they pulled a little girl off the bus." I said, "They pulled me off because I refused to walk off." So rather than just her being young, what is she?
A little girl?
Yeah, she's just a kid. She's 15 years old. She's tiny. She's little. All right, so Rosa Parks was surprised because Claudette was younger looking than she had imagined. Jordan, a promise, is there anything you want to add?
That I think that Claudette might end up getting mad at Rosa Parks after what she said.
Oh no, it doesn't say anything about her getting mad. She did say in that podcast how it comes into play right now that she had fair skin, which means that she was a lot lighter than Claudette was, and that's why Rosa Parks made a bigger social impact than Claudette did, is because Claudette looked black. She had very dark skin and natural hair, and Rosa Parks looked more white. She was more publicly appealing to white people, which is supposedly made people more sympathetic towards her. So she wasn't quite angry, but she did talk about those differences between skin color. All right. Going back to the reading.
Rosa had already asked the teachers at my school about me and found out I was a good student. She got even more interested when she realized she knew my mother, my biological mom, from Pine Level. Rosa had lived there too when she was younger. Mom was close friends with Rosa's brother, Sylvester, before she left Pine Level for Birmingham. We did all sorts of things to raise money for my lawyer. Rosa's mother baked and sold cookies. I was always eating them, and Rosa would come up and say, Claudette, don't eat all the cookies or we won't have any to sell. Rosa put me up for Miss NAACP Montgomery Chapter. I finished second, but it didn't matter. All the money from the contest went to pay my lawyer anyway. Claudette's lawyer wasn't much older than she was. Bespectacled, serious, sporting a pencil-thin mustache, and usually seen in a neatly pressed suit, 24-year-old Fred Gray was just 6 months out of law school in March 1955. The youngest of 5 children, he had grown up riding the Montgomery City buses in a triangle between school and home and his job with the newspaper. He had never himself been beaten or threatened on a bus, but he had heard more than enough insults and witnessed more than enough abuse of Black passengers to last a lifetime. Like Claudette, he had vowed to study law in the North and then return home to destroy everything segregated I could find. After high school, Gray worked his way rapidly through Alabama State College and then went off to law school in Ohio. True to his pledge, he returned to Montgomery soon after graduation, passed the Alabama bar exam, and opened his practice in a tiny downtown office, finding his first clients through Black churches and NAACP meetings. He had lunch almost every day with Rosa Parks, who worked across the street at the Montgomery Fair department store. When E.D. Nixon suggested he take the Claudette Colvin case, Gray leapt at the chance. Since Claudette had been charged with breaking the city and state segregation laws, Gray hoped he could use the case to show they were unconstitutional. There had never been a chance before, since no one except Claudette Colvin had ever pleaded not guilty to breaking the segregation laws in a bus arrest.
All right, answering this question now, question 5. Why was Claudette's case different from the other cases where Black people were accused of committing a crime on a bus? Claudette was the first teenager to ever refuse. Claudette was the first to say that she was not guilty of committing a crime. Claudette was the first to actually be arrested by an officer. Claudette was the first to hire a lawyer and defend herself. I haven't heard from Chase in a while. Sorry to Ryan and Jordan, but Chase, go ahead.
At first, I would have thought that Claudette was the first teenager to refuse because that was how she was young. But then, when it says Claudette was the first to actually be arrested by an officer.
Okay, that's the one you're thinking. You're thinking C?
I'm thinking the first one.
You're thinking she was the first teenager?
Yeah.
Let's see if Za agrees or not. The battle continues. Za?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I said at first, but yeah, I thought it was C too. But I think A.
You thought it was C, but you picked A?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back and read it just one more time, okay? It said right here, since Claudette had been charged with breaking the city and state segregation laws, Gray hoped that he could use the case to show they were unconstitutional. There had never been a chance before, since no one except Claudette had ever pleaded not guilty in breaking the segregation laws in the bus arrest. So you both are actually wrong, so you don't get to win. Neither you get to win this time. She actually pled not guilty. Okay, Dariah, can you explain to me what not guilty means?
Not guilty means like she did it. That's what it means. Right.
Not guilty means that she did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she admits that she did it, but she knows that okay, so not guilty, it's saying that you did do it, but that you're not guilty of anything, meaning no charges should be held against you. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's saying that she did it, and I know that I did it, but nothing should happen to me nonetheless. And that's the first time that anyone had ever said that. So she's standing up to the whole institution of segregation. She's saying that though these laws are in place, they are absolutely wrong, and I'm not guilty of anything because the Constitution is on my side.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Montgomery will have these bus laws, the federal government should not allow Montgomery to have these bus laws. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, she was the first to plead not guilty, which is actually a really strong thing to do. How do we think this is going to work out, Rihanna? Do you think she's going to win the case or lose the case?
I think she gonna win the case.
Why do you think she's going to win?
Because I don't know.
Okay. Well, she's the first person to ever plead not guilty, right?
Yeah.
And this is in the very, very racist South at the time. Do you think she's going to win?
No.
It's
No.
really sad, but I don't think that she's going to win either. I hope she'll win. I absolutely do. But the thing is that these institutions in the South are really controlling, and they don't get African Americans on the jury. So whenever they make a conviction, they only have white people deciding things. Do you think that a white person in Southern Alabama is actually going to make a difference? Lamont,
Wait, what?
do you think that an all-white jury is actually going to change their mind on the bus segregation laws?
No.
No. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Not the questions, the reading.
One March evening, Gray and his secretary, Bernice Hill, drove out to King Hill to meet Claudette and her parents. They sat around the Colvin small kitchen table, sipping coffee and talking, while Hill took notes. Since Claudette was still a legal minor, one of her parents would have to file the lawsuit on her behalf. Given its importance, both parents would have to strongly support it. Gray took an instant liking to the entire family, sizing them up as brave and self-reliant. For her part, Claudette admired Fred Gray as the first person she had ever met who was doing what she herself wanted to do someday. Gray urged all three to consider the hazards of contesting the charges in court. By pleading not guilty, Claudette would be doing more than just talking back to whites. She would be challenging Jim Crow dead on. Her name would almost certainly be in the paper. Homes had been bombed, jobs lost, and people lynched for less. All three Colvins simply looked back at him, unshaken. Gray turned to Claudette and asked if she was sure. "Yes, I am," she replied. Her quick response and the family's unity of purpose sent Fred Gray off King Hill with a sense of hope. Whatever was to come, at least the Colvins were not people who would back down.
All right. Read the sentence from page 47, then answer question 6. Her name would most certainly be in the paper. Homes had been bombed, jobs lost, and people lynched, killed, for less. All three Colvins simply looked back at him, unshaken. Gray turned to Claudette and asked if she was sure. "Yes, I am," she replied. Question 6. Why do you think that Claudette and her family decided to move forward with the case, knowing they would be putting themselves in great danger? Who would like to answer this question? I'd like to hear from Alea or Alrion or Xavier or Lamont or Rihanna Smith. Come on, people. Why do you think Claudette and her family are moving forward with this case, even though it's dangerous? I'm not going to accept people who've already answered. I'm asking for Alea, Alrion, Xavier, Rihanna Smith, Rihanna James, Jojo. Unless you have a question, I'm not gonna take your answer. Xavier, why do you think that they're moving on with this case?
What? Say that again.
So why do you think Claudette and her family are deciding to move forward with the case, pleading not guilty on the bus segregation laws, even though it might bring their family into complete danger? They could be killed for doing this.
I don't know.
Would you do it?
Do what?
Plead not guilty and continue with the case, even though you might be killed for something?
Yeah?
Why?
No comment.
Say again? Oh, sorry, you muted yourself. Say again, Xavier.
I don't know.
Okay. London, why do you think they're going to continue?
I think they'll continue because they believe in Claudette. They believe in Claudette so that Claudette could possibly end of make sure blacks and whites can sit on the bus together. That's what I'm trying to say. The family believes in her. So.
Yeah, the cause is actually bigger than themselves. So to have equality for all black people, to be able to ride the bus in equality with white people, to end these laws is to have equality or to start that path towards equality. So the cause is bigger than their own lives. Thank you, London, for sharing that. I think that I boiled it down pretty much exactly what you said. I'm going to put that in the group chat again. Everyone in the meeting. Boom. All right. I'm going to give you a few seconds to answer that because that is pretty important. So they will continue the case because they think Claudette could possibly end the bus segregation laws. Her family believes in her. The cause is bigger than their own lives. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to write that down. You can write it in your Google Forms. You should be writing it in your Google Forms so I have all the information that you need, okay? If you turned it in on Google Classroom, it's easier for me to grade and easier for me to see, all right? About 20 more seconds. Going back to the reading in 10. Going back to the reading now.
There had been 13 black students on the Highland Gardens bus the day Claudette was arrested, most of them her classmates at Booker T. Washington. Gray arranged for the high school principal to issue passes for students willing to testify at Claudette's hearing. Just before the trial, he spoke to them as a group, coaching them about what they might be asked and how best to answer. In the days before Claudette's hearing, black leaders rallied around her. The Citizens Coordinating Committee, a group of prominent black men and women, mimeographed a leaflet and passed it around Montgomery, entitled, "To Friends of Justice and Human Rights." It described Claudette's arrest and demanded that she be acquitted of charges. It also called for punishment of the bus driver and insisted on clarification of the long-standing city bus rule, constantly ignored by drivers, that said no rider had to give up a seat unless another was available. Claudette's hearing was held on March 18, 1955, late in the morning. A cousin drove Claudette, QP, and their neighbor Annie Larkin off the hill and down to Montgomery County's juvenile court. Claudette felt certain her troubles would be over by nightfall. "I thought Fred Gray was a very good lawyer," she remembers. "He seemed to have prepared very well. I was confident." Because Claudette's plea of not guilty to breaking the segregation law was important to every black bus rider in Montgomery, several leaders attended the hearing, including Joanne Robinson and the Reverend Ralph Abernathy, pastor of the First Baptist Church. It was nearly noon when Claudette and Fred Gray were summoned into the small courtroom to appear before a juvenile court judge, Wiley Hill, Jr. Students remained in the hall, straining to hear what was going on behind the door and waiting for their names to be called. Claudette faced 3 separate charges: violating the segregation law, disturbing the peace, and assaulting the policeman who had pulled her off the bus. Judge Hill heard testimony from patrolmen Paul Headley and T.J. Ward, the arresting officers. Ward testified that when he placed Claudette under arrest, she had fought the officers, kicking and scratching them. She insisted she was colored and just as good as white, Ward informed the judge.
Okay, so we're getting a different idea of what actually happened on the bus. What are the white cops saying happened to Claudette on the bus? What were they saying she did? Jojo?
She said,
No, what did the white officer say?
oh, he's basically saying lies that she was kicking him, scratching him, but all she really said was it's my constitutional right.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So the white people are lying on Claudette. The white police officers are lying to an all-white jury that Claudette was a bad kid and, you know, not doing the things that she actually did. Thank you, Jojo. Oh, sorry. Let's fix this. Okay.
2 officers were able to show a letter written by a white passenger on the bus that day, praising them as gentlemen almost to the point of turning the other cheek, who spoke to Claudette in tones so soft that I doubt if any of the other passengers aboard the bus even heard them. When called, Fred Gray's student witnesses offered a very different story of 2 police officers confronting a teenage girl with frightening force on a packed bus. Gray challenged the laws themselves, contending that the provisions of Alabama's laws and Montgomery's city ordinances requiring racial segregation were unconstitutional. Just before lunchtime, Judge Hill delivered his blunt ruling, guilty of all charges. Claudette would be placed on probation, was declared a ward of the state, and was released to the custody of her parents. He cracked his gavel, dismissing the case. As the words washed over Claudette, she felt a wave of anguish, and then everything she had been holding inside for the past 2 weeks came pouring out. Claudette's agonized sobs penetrated the atmosphere of the courthouse, wrote Joanne Robinson. Many people brushed away their own tears. Now I was a criminal. Now I would have a police record whenever I went to get a job or when I tried to go to college. Yes, I was free on probation, but I would have to watch my step everywhere I went for at least a year. Anyone who didn't like me could get me in trouble. On top of that, I hadn't done anything wrong. Not everyone knew the bus rule that said they couldn't make you get up and stand if there were no seat available for you to go to, but I did. When the driver told me to go back, there was no other seat. I hadn't broken the law. And assaulting a police officer? I probably wouldn't have lived for very long if I had assaulted those officers. When I got back to school, more and more students seemed to turn against me. Everywhere I went, people pointed at me and whispered. Some kids would snicker when they saw me coming down the hall. It's my constitutional right. It's my constitutional right. I had taken a stand for my people. I had stood up for our rights. I hadn't expected to become a hero, but I sure didn't expect this. I cried a lot, and people saw me cry. They kept saying I was emotional. Well, who wouldn't be emotional after something like that? Tell me, who wouldn't cry?
Okay, everybody. That is the end of chapter 5. We have, boy, I'm getting to, okay. Oh no. Okay, question 7. Describe the kind of person that you think that Claudette is. Use the sentence starter below to help. Write this is a CER, which means you must support your answer with evidence from the text. So sentence starter, Claudette Colvin is a blank person. In chapter 5, it says blank. My evidence proves my idea because blank. Type your answer for question 7 here. So once again, let's start with that sentence starter. Claudette Colvin is a blank person. Za, what word would you use?
I said Claudette's a very brave person.
Very, very brave person. Would anybody agree or disagree? Give me a thumbs up if you would agree. Give me a thumbs up if you would agree. Jojo gives me a thumbs up. Does anybody have a better word they would use to describe Claudette besides very brave? All right, Za. I think that everyone is basically agreeing with you. Jojo.
I mean, you can call it heroic, I guess.
Heroic. Okay, so rather than saying very brave, you can say heroic. So if you want to exchange very brave for heroic and just replace that right there, exchange very brave for heroic, I think that that would also work too. Okay. So we're starting with the next sentence in chapter 5. It says, Daria, what is the best piece of evidence from the text that would say that she is very brave?
Because she stood up to the police officer. Wait, you said what? Wait, can you ask the question again?
So from chapter 5, from the chapter that we just read, why would Claudette be a very brave person? So we're writing a CER now. Claudette Colvin is a very brave person. In chapter 5, it says,
It says that I don't know. I don't know, Miss Harris.
okay. Does anybody else want to help her out? Thinking about some of these answers that we answered. Question 6 especially would be a really good one for a piece of evidence. I'm going to go to Lyric because Za just answered. She also has her hand up, but Lyric?
It said that she stood up to the police when they tried to make her get off the seat. Seat on the bus.
Yeah, so that happened in chapter 3 or 4. I'm not quite sure which one. I think it was chapter 4. We're talking about this chapter again, right? So this is all about the case. So the case was the thing that they took into the courtroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were working on this case the entire time. So rather than she stood up to the police, what did she stand up to? Jojo?
Her. I was gonna say her rights, but
She stood up.
kinda
Wait, no. She stood up for what?
her rights.
She stood up for her rights. To end what? What was she trying to end?
She's trying to end segregation.
Okay, I'm gonna call on some random people now. Okay, so if you've been listening, make sure that you please actually respond. So Big Al, why was this so dangerous that she was standing up for her rights to end segregation?
What?
Why was it dangerous for her to stand up for her rights to end segregation?
I guess because she was black.
Yeah, because she was black, and what would happen?
She would go to prison.
So she would actually be convicted of her crime. Okay. So rather, yeah, she could go to jail. She had the potential to go to jail, or this will be on her permanent record forever. Okay. It was also dangerous for another reason, right? So rather than just the fact that it was going to be burdensome on her, how else was it dangerous? Rihanna Smith?
Wouldn't it be when she when they had no? Wait, let me rethink what I was gonna say.
Okay.
It can make if she can put her people around her in danger.
Yes. So going to the trial and pleading not guilty would also put her family in danger. That's my grandma, everybody. You can say hi to my grandma if you want.
Hi.
Yeah, she is. You can wave.
I didn't know.
I know. Yeah, people can see you. Okay, so this is a really good CER right now. We're using 2 pieces of evidence rather than just one. Za, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I was gonna say the same thing Rihanna said about how she put her family in danger.
Yeah, and she can put her family in danger too. So it's dangerous. She's brave because she's putting her own life in jeopardy, and she's also putting people around her in jeopardy too. Okay, Daria, is there anything else you want to add?
What you say, Mr. Hurst?
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, okay. So what you mean, like?
Oh, okay. You just had your hand raised. I was just wondering if you had anything to add. So right now we have
I did, but you took too long.
Oh, sorry. We have the CE right now, which is this. Claudette Colvin is a very brave person. That's the claim. In chapter 5, it says she stood up for her rights to end bus segregation because she was black and she was more than likely going to be convicted of her crime.
Mhm.
Going to the trial, not pleading guilty, would also put her family in danger. So it said all that in chapter 5. We have all that set up. Okay? Is there anything that you'd like to add about how she's brave from evidence in this chapter?
And she's brave. And she brave because she didn't let them. I mean, she wasn't afraid to fight when her case was gone. She wasn't afraid to fight.
Yeah. This evidence shows, we're going to work on the reasoning now, that she is brave because, who can figure out this reasoning for me? So this evidence shows that she was going, okay, once again, the two pieces of evidence that we have right now are that she was going to be actually convicted of the crime and she would put her family in danger. How do those two things show that she was brave? All right. Can anybody write a good reasoning statement for this? Just finish it out using this sentence starter that I wrote. Joe, you answered a lot of questions today. I would love to call on you, but Rihanna Smith is also raising her hand. I hope that everybody writes this down because it is really good writing right now. Rihanna Smith?
Now, before I answer this question, can you say what you said again so I can remember what I just said?
Yes, ma'am. So the evidence that we have right now is that she could put her family in danger by pleading not guilty, and she was more than likely going to be convicted of her crime. How does that show that she was brave?
Because she was not willing to give up, and then she was really trying hard and trying to make all the rights and stuff. Well, she was just fighting for all their rights, but everything can go to normal.
Rihanna, those weren't your exact words, but I think that I boiled it down into exactly what you mean, okay? You are absolutely right, kiddo. So the evidence shows that she was brave because she was not willing to give up and was trying hard to change the rights of African Americans. I'm going to add one more thing in there, so don't copy it all down yet, okay? So this evidence shows that she is brave because she was not willing to give up and put herself in danger to change. And here's one lesson that I want to leave you with, guys. I have a college degree in writing and still change my thoughts all the time so that it makes better sense, okay? Whenever you're writing, it is perfectly fine to change things over and over again so that it makes the best sense so that you say exactly what's in your mind and in your heart on the paper, okay? So Claudette Colvin is a brave person. In chapter 5, it says she stood up for her rights to end bus segregation because she was black and she was more than likely going to be convicted of her crime. Going to the trial and pleading not guilty would also put her family in danger. This evidence shows that she is brave because she was not willing to give up and put herself in danger to change the rights of African Americans. Give me a thumbs up if you think this is the best CR you've ever seen. I'm getting some thumbs. Thank you. Rayana James, you copying this down? Or are you filling it out on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Make sure to turn it in this time, all right? Are you filling it out on your phone or writing it down?
Filling it out on my phone.
Filling it out on the form? Okay, make sure that you press turn in, okay? Submit, right here at
All
the bottom.
right.
Perfect. Miss Collins? Whoa, there's a lot of people raising their hand. Miss Collins?
That was for the put. Mr. Hurst, are you gonna put it in the chat like you always do, or are you just gonna leave it like this?
I can put it in the chat. Miss Harris? Za? Lyric, you have a question?
Okay.
We can submit it now.
Yeah, you can submit it after you wrote that. Thank you, Za. Or thank you, Lyric. Josephine, you have a question for me?
Yeah.
What's your question, kiddo?
What was he putting his thumbs up for again?
If this is the best CR you've ever seen in your whole dang life.
Yeah. This is the best.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, Za, you still have your hand raised. Do you need anything?
Are we doing the exit slips here? We can get it.
I think that this was the exit ticket. Let me see. So the exit ticket says, you know what? We've actually been on here for an hour and 6 minutes today. I'm going to say skip the exit ticket for today, okay?
All right.
If you wrote that one, that's enough, okay?
Okay.
So just please make sure that you submit everything in here. You don't have to do the exit ticket for today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Za. Or thank you. Who was I talking to? Chase?
Yo, Za.
Derek?
Za.
To Za? Sorry. Xavier?
You really want us to skip the exit ticket?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Okay. I think that you guys did a lot of work for today, and I don't want to overload you, okay? It's
So I don't
12
have
right now.
anything else to do right now then. Until tomorrow?
No, nothing to do until tomorrow. If you submitted that form, you're all good to go, okay, Xavier?
I'm finna do the form.
Okay, fill out that form, all right, bud? Everything should be in the group chat for your answers. Lamont?
What was I gonna say? Are you gonna give us a point for the written response on the Google Forms? Because when I submitted it, it said I got all the written responses wrong.
Yeah, I mean, because we did it together, you all basically got all the answers right. So, I mean, I'm not going to give feedback to people who are in the Zoom chat lesson because, well, I mean, you guys already heard everything. We already saw everything, right? You guys knew how to do it, okay?
All right.
So you still get all your points.
I'm about to go.
All right. Bye, Lamont. Thank you for tuning in.
Uh-huh.
Alea, how you doing, kiddo?
Good.
All right. You have any questions for me?
No.
Quiet as a mouse. Okay. Good talking to you. Daria?
Bye, Mr. Hurst. See you tomorrow, I think.
See you tomorrow. Yeah. We'll basically do something fun like we did yesterday, but probably more fun. Okay? Okay, cool.
Mr. Hurst?
Josephine? Or Promise?
Do you have another class after this?
No.
We have this is the only class thing because you don't go to math. You don't go to science.
Yeah, I'll go to science tomorrow.
You look like you're too young to be a teacher.
Who said that?
Me.
Who?
Me.
Okay. I'll take that as a compliment. How old do you think I am?
20-something.
20-something? How old are your teachers supposed to be?
I don't know. Like 18 or up.
So if I'm 20-something and the minimum age of a teacher is 18, Why am I too young to be a teacher?
Well, you look like you're too young. You look like you, like 17 or something.
No, I'm not 17. I look like I'm 17 now. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to be 27 in 25 days. Yep, going to be 27.
Okay. So I'm gonna be 12 next week.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you. What the heck?
Oh, there's Mama's text messages.
Okay, Jojo, you get all that down?
Yep.
Okay, you said you had question 3 you needed answered? Question 3 is B. The black community was angry and became more serious about boycotting the buses.
Somebody texting me.
Hi, Anthony. How you doing, bud?
Hi, Mr. Hurst.
You got all your work done for today? Cool. Rihanna Smith, you need anything from me?
Nope.
You got everything written down?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing the screen so we can see all see each other. It was good to see everybody today. I'm glad that it all worked out. Xavier, do you need anything else from me?
Yes.
Do you need, what you need, Xavier?
Get that one. Get that far one right there. You're gonna get hit. All right, now just push the truck. Just push the truck. And just go. Go. Okay. What about the other answers? For the other ones, I got the 2 that you showed me, but you gotta wait. Yeah. Cause I actually got on later than everybody else.
Okay, so question 1. Okay, well, yeah, question 1 said.
Hold on. Don't change it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, go to question 2. Can you type that into the chat so I can copy it?
It should be in the chat already.
No, it's not on there. Wait.
All right, you see it?
All right, hold on. Wait. Okay, can you go to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Can you type that one into the chat? Right before you hit the truck. Where's the truck? Here he is, baby. I sharpened my nails. Okay, can you go to the next one now?
Question 5?
Yeah. No, I'm done with question 5.
All right, it's this one.
All right, Miss Harris, I already have them two. Okay.
Oh, you already have those two?
Yeah, I'm finna submit it now.
All right, buddy. You doing all right on everything?
Huh?
You doing all right on everything?
Yeah.
You guys have enough food and everything?
Do we have enough food?
Yep.
I don't know.
Okay. Let me know if you don't, okay?
Okay. I'm finna go ask my mom.
Oh, no, you're fine.
My mom said we have enough.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for asking, though.
No, let me know if you need anything at all, okay, buddy? Thank you for tuning in today, too. It was good to see you.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye, Xavier.